allegations that the defendant, along with her husband, permitted her daughter-in-law, her son, and their children to reside in their home. On the date the charges are alleged to have occurred, authorities were present at the defendant's home only to serve a misdemeanor warrant upon the defendant's son, Gary Siders Jr. Neither the defendant, her daughter-in-law, nor her husband were suspected of criminal conduct. At the home, authorities encountered unsanitary conditions, and the defendant's grandchildren were removed from their parents' care. All 4 adults in the home have been charged with 1 count of endangering children for each of the children in the home. There is no allegation that the defendant used or had access to a weapon, nor that the defendant committed any acts of violence against any alleged victim. And there is no evidence that the defendant participated in any acts of abuse causing serious physical harm to any of the alleged victims. Rather, it is evident the defendant was the only adult in the home who had been providing for all the other adults and all the children residing in her home. The defendant was also tasked, I skipped something. Defendant paid for rent, utilities, and other necessities in the home. Despite her own medical conditions, defendant was also tasked with caring for her husband and his significant medical needs and physical limitations.
The available facts indicate that the charges pertain to allegations that the defendant permitted her daughter-in-law, her son, and their children to reside in their home. That is the opening line of the bond motion filed by Christina, Lynn, Siders in the Vinton County Court of Common Pleas. It is clinical precise and utterly sterile. But a motion is just paper. Picture the actual floor plan for 228 Omar Street, the one sitting in the county auditor's dusty archives. That blueprint was drawn for a family of 2, a husband and a wife, 1 bathroom, a modest living room, a kitchen. That document was never amended when the first grandchild arrived, or the 10th or the 16th. When law enforcement pushed open that front door on June 30th, the floor plan had already been alive for years. 20 human beings were inside, not because the house grew, because the paperwork never caught up. The building already told the truth. The question is whether the legal system is willing to read it. Before we go deeper into what the actual filings reveal, make sure you're subscribed to Crime Files 911. Because we don't just cover the story, we follow the evidence. This case has been branded the Ohio House of Horrors, and on the surface, it fits a grim template. 4 adults, 16 children, deplorable conditions, arrests. It's the kind of headline that writes itself. But the more you drill into the docket, the motions, and the physical descriptions of the people inside that house, the template cracks.
I have an update on the quote, media-dubbed Ohio House of Horrors case. If you are not caught up, head to my playlist on this channel. And the last video I did, there wasn't too much, new information about their actual case, which is being presented to a grand jury soon, if it has not already. So hopefully they will return an indictment. I say hopefully so we can get to the bottom of this very strange case. I mean, the more I learn, the more confused I guess.
The more you learn, the less sense it makes. We were told the raid happened because authorities showed up to serve a warrant on Gary.
It was alleged that authorities showed up to the Siders Omer Street home on June 30th because Gary Siders had these 4 public indecency charges. Those are misdemeanors, by the way. Those were all stemming from something he did in May of 2026. So that's kind of what the narrative was. Yeah, they showed up for Gary Siders Jr. and then they discovered, these kids living in deplorable conditions, and it led to this. Well, then I think it was Gary Siders Sr.'s attorney, Adrian Baum, who kind of came out and was like, it was a local interview. And I may have played it on this channel. I can't recall because I've done a lot of videos. But he said, I just don't think that's the case because that would be crazy for all these cops to show up or this to be such a big deal over, a public indecency misdemeanor. So he kind of was like, that's not why they were there. It was a different.
Siders Jr. for 4 misdemeanor public indecency charges from May 2026. That was the public narrative. A simple warrant service leads to the discovery of a nightmare. But then Gary Siders' Sir's attorney, Adrian Baum, stepped in front of a local camera and said that doesn't add up. He pointed out that an army of law enforcement doesn't mobilize over a low-level misdemeanor. He suggested a different investigation was already in motion. For a moment, the media ran with that. We assumed there was a deeper, darker reason the house was raided. But then Lynn Siders filed her motion and the narrative split in 2. She says the opposite. According to her filing, authorities were present only to serve that same misdemeanor warrant. They walked in, observed unsanitary conditions, and arrested everyone. She insists there is no allegation of weapons, no allegation of physical violence, and no evidence she committed any act of abuse. Her argument is breathtaking in its simplicity. All she is guilty of.
They discovered unsanitary conditions and then arrested us all, basically. And she said in the filing, there is no proof of any abuse here, any wrongdoing. Like I'm not being charged, as having illegal weapons. I'm not being charged as physically abusing these kids. She's like, all I am basically guilty of, and I'm paraphrasing, is
in her own words, is allowing her grandchildren, her daughter-in-law, and her son to stay in her home. She pays the rent. She pays the utilities. She takes care of everybody. That is what she wants the judge to believe.
Goes on to kind of say that she is the one that pays all the bills and, quote, takes care of everybody. That was interesting because I was like, I wouldn't say that, because the whole reason the kids are not there is because they were not being cared for, allegedly. So, she talks about also caring for her husband who has medical issues. And again, like arguing this is not where she belongs. She does not need to be incarcerated. And also
But look at the photographic evidence. Look at the images of the defendants being led away. Gary Sider's Judah looks like he hasn't missed a meal in years. He is robust, well-fed, visibly heavier than the others. Now look at Gary Sider's Sar. He is smaller, frail, brought out in a wheelchair. And Elizabeth Sider's, the grandmother, appears almost skeletal. The visible disparity in their physical conditions tells a story that the legal filing tries desperately to overwrite. She says she took care of everybody. The camera caught a different reality.
To be a lot of the focus of this case, because he seems to be the one that looks to be the most well-fed out of anybody. Elizabeth Sider's is very small. I had mentioned in the last video, Gary Sider Sr., when he is seen getting out of the van when he was arrested, and he's kind of not walking, but he's in the wheelchair and he's sort of next to his son, Gary Siders Jr. looks like he hasn't missed a meal in so long. And Gary Sider Sr. looks smaller, significantly smaller. Again, Elizabeth Sider, she looks so bony. It's just, and I don't mean that in a judgy way. I just mean that I just don't think that this...
The care was just words. Now consider the logistics. The house has one bathroom.
My stories went through the layout of the house because I went to the county auditor's website. I was looking at the home. I mean, one bathroom for 20 people is insane. But the kids weren't in the basement. So if law enforcement walks in the home, I believe they were in a room that's kind of close to the entryway. So I think that it would be very easy for law enforcement to see.
20 people. The county auditor's floor plan confirms that. It is a structure designed for two. The children were not locked in a basement as originally rumored. They were in a room near the entryway. It would have been impossible for anyone to walk in and not see them. But seeing them and caring for them are two different things. The prosecution claims at least two of the children were essentially close to death or near it. How do you not know that? How does a house with that many people, with that few resources, become a black hole of accountability? The answer might lie in the competency evaluation.
Competency evaluation, that was granted by the judge. They were also asking his lawyers for everything to be sealed. The request to be sealed, which was very strange in my opinion, and also the results citing, privacy issues, HIPAA, etc. So the judge was basically like, yes, it's granted. And look, by the way, it's not like some big feat to get an evaluation like that granted. I mean, if a judge wouldn't grant that and the defendant goes to trial, is found guilty, and clearly doesn't know where they are or what's going on, obviously that's grounds for appeal. And a judge just wants to avoid that if they can. And so he was granted the evaluation, and all of the results in terms of just his mental health, anything relating to psychiatric records, those will be sealed, but the actual request, not sealed. The judge was like, I don't really see the purpose of that. So that's granted. And also Christina, Lynn Siders, his mother, has also requested through her lawyers a competency evaluation, and that has been granted. So as of right now, Elizabeth Siders is the only member of the family.
Gary Siders Jr. requested one, and the judge granted it. His mother, Lynn, also requested one, and it was granted. The judge has ordered the psychiatric records sealed, but the requests themselves remain public. Elizabeth Siders is currently the only one not ordered to undergo a competency evaluation. Her attorney has been silent in the docket since July 13th. That means the family is entering this legal nightmare in pieces. Some of them might not even understand the charges against them. We have heard from a local pastor, speaking anonymously, that Lynn was entirely open about having all her grandchildren live with her. She took them out in public. She wasn't hiding anything, but openness is not the same as providing, and competence is not the same as innocence. The care was just words. This is where the story pivots from a simple welfare check into a procedural thriller. Because if 80% of the adults in that home are found mentally incompetent to stand trial, what exactly is the court trying to achieve? You have a 66-year-old woman, Lynn, who claims she is indigent, who invokes the Ohio Constitution to argue for reasonable bail, and whose own attorney makes the compelling point that she cannot afford to flee. She has no private jet. She has no hidden accounts. She has nothing. The filing correctly notes that flight is not a risk when you live in extreme poverty. But that doesn't answer the harder question: if she was the only adult providing for all these people, and the provision was this catastrophic, is she a caretaker who failed or a victim of her own circumstances?
We'll see what happens. I mean, I'm kind of like, I don't think it would hurt anyone if Elizabeth and Christina were released and had ankle monitors. That's sort of how I feel right now. But we'll see. It's really a shame because they cannot afford this bail. And I've told you, I've gone back and forth on this case. I'm not saying anybody is innocent of anything here. This is awful. If what authorities claimed at the beginning was true with these kids being, two of them basically close to death, I mean, how do you not know that? I don't have words for that. But again, I also go back to them living in extreme poverty. And if 80% of them are not mentally competent, I'm kind of like,
Look at the Turpin case. In that horror show, the parents ate fast food in front of their starving children. They tortured them actively. That was cruelty with a motive. But here, Gary Sturt is small. Elizabeth is bony. They don't look like they were hoarding resources. They look like they were drowning in them. They couldn't manage 20 people any more than a single bathroom could manage 20 bodies. The judge has to decide if a 66-year-old woman with no money and no history of violence is a danger to the community. But the community isn't just Omar Street. The community is the entire legal apparatus that let this fester. The grand jury is currently sitting. They could return an indictment at any moment. And when they do, the defense will have to answer a question that cuts to the bone. If the system didn't see these children until they were nearly dead, and the parents didn't ask for help, who exactly is culpable? The ticking clock on this case is not the trial date. It's the moment we have to decide if we are outraged enough to ask the hard questions or just outraged enough to click away. The floor plan for 228 Omar Street was drawn for 2 people. 20 people lived there. The filing says 1 person took care of them. The photographs say something else. The care was just words. This case will go to trial, and barring a miracle, all 4 defendants will likely be tried together. The resources in Vinton County simply do not exist to sever them. But that trial will be a spectacle of contradictions. You will have a son who looks healthy and parents who look starved. You will have a mother who signed a motion claiming she paid for everything, and a house that physically could not hold the number of people she claims to have sheltered. You will have competency evaluations that seal the defendants' mental states from public view, but leave us to guess if they even know what they are being charged with. Lynn Siders' motion is a remarkable document because it is both a legal argument and a cry of poverty. She is saying, I can't pay this. I didn't hurt anyone. I just let them stay. But letting someone stay when you have 1 bathroom and 16 children is not a defense. It is an explanation of the collapse.
In this case, I'm on it. Should this go to trial? I will be there. I will be there covering it. You better believe it. I cannot imagine, by the way, that they separate this trial. I think all 4 defendants will be tried together because they are being charged with the same thing. I have seen trials where defendants are charged with the same thing and they want them severed for different reasons, but that would be absolutely insane. I mean, I don't think Vinton County would be able to do that anyway. Hold 4, you know what I mean? Resources, witnesses, experts, all of that stuff. I just don't think that would be plausible. But anyway, I could keep talking about this forever with speculation. And actually, it's funny, I do kind of talk about this case too much to the point where everybody wants me to just shut up and stop speculating and stop thinking of, what could have happened. And everyone's like, okay, we want to talk about something else. So That's why you guys get 16.
So here is what I need you to do. Pull up the bond motion for Christina, Lynn, Siders. It is public record, filed in the Vinton County Common Pleas Court. Read it. Read her exact words where she tells the judge she was the sole provider. Then, and this is crucial, go to the county auditor's website. Look up the property record for 228 Omar Street. Look at the square footage. Look at the number of bedrooms and bathrooms that were legally permitted for that address. Now ask yourself, how many people can one person actually care for in that space? When you read her motion and you look at the physical layout of the house that the auditors drew on paper, what question would you ask her public defender? Drop your question in the comments below. If you haven't already, hit that like button. Share this breakdown with someone who wants the evidence, not the gossip. And make sure to subscribe to Crime Files 911 and turn on notifications. We don't just follow the headlines, we follow the documents. And in the end, the documents are all we really have. The filing said she took care. The house had already shown us the truth. The floor plan never lied. It was just never read. The care was just words.